my channel. Tonight, in my podcast, I want you to know about 4 English cognitive approaches: the direct method, the silent way, Suggestopedia, and the communicative approach. What are these? Let's begin with the direct method. And let's say that it is direct because it should be connected directly with the target language without translation into the native language. So here we are going to have emphasis on oral language as much. There is intensive speech practice, usually with training in phonetics, and it doesn't accept use of the mother tongue. Well, what are some principles of this method, the direct method in teaching English? Listen, reading in the target language should be taught from the beginning of the language instruction. However, the reading skill will be developed through practice with speaking. Language is primarily speech. Here, teachers will use a lot of objects, realia, pictures, visuals, and they are present in the immediate classroom environment, so they can be used to help students understand the meaning. The native language shouldn't be used in the classroom, remember. That teachers should demonstrate, not explain or translate. It is desirable that students make a direct association between the target language and meaning. Students also should learn to think in the target language as soon as possible. Vocabulary is acquired more naturally if students use it in full sentences rather than memorizing. Remember, the purpose of language learning is communication. Therefore, students need to learn how to ask questions as well as answer them. Pronunciation. Wow, this is very important. It should be worked on right from the beginning of language instruction. This method has very important advantages. It provides better understanding, it saves time, it helps in teaching idioms, it provides better fluency of language, and, well, no gap between active and passive vocabularies. But it also has disadvantages. It isn't economical as it requires various teaching aids, and maybe is not suitable for average or weaker students. It requires that the students have a basis on English so they can learn and understand. Yes? Well, it gives overemphasis on listening and speaking skills more than reading or writing. And it isn't effective in early stages of learning. Okay, let's continue. What about the silent way? Well, as the name already suggests, the method is built upon the hypothesis that inside the classroom the teacher should be as silent as possible, whereas the students should be encouraged to produce as much language as possible, participate actively in class, and in this way become autonomous learners. Silence is regarded as the best instrument for learning in the classroom. This method, this approach, the silent way, is characterized by its focus on discovery, creativity, problem solving, and the use of accompanying materials. The general goal of the silent way is to help beginning level students gain basic fluency and oral facility in basic elements of the target language, with the ultimate aim being near native language proficiency and good pronunciation. An important part of this ability is being able to use the language for self-expression. Students should be able to express their thoughts, feelings, and needs in the target language. Some characteristics of this approach is that learning is facilitated if the learner discovers or creates. The silent way belongs to the tradition of teaching that favors hypothetical mode of teaching as opposed to the expository mode of teaching, in which the teacher and the learner work cooperatively to reach the educational desired goals. Here, learning is facilitated by accompanying or mediating physical objects. The use of special physical objects, such as color-coded roads or color-coded wall charts, facilitates learning. These physical objects provide physical focus for students' learning and also create memorable images to facilitate student recall. Learning is facilitated by involving the learners and letting them solve problems on their own with the help of the provided materials. A good silent way, learning is a good problem solver. The teacher's role resides only in giving minimum repetitions and correction, remaining silent most of the time, leaving the learner struggling to solve problems about the language and get a grasp of its mechanism. How do we apply this method in classrooms? Well, classes often begin by using fidel charts or fidel charts in the native language. The first part of the lesson focuses on pronunciation. Rods, pictures, subjects, or situations are other aids used for presentation in order to connect sounds and meanings. First, language can be used to give instructions when necessary. Meaning is made clear by focusing the student's perceptions, not by translation. The teacher models a word, phrase, or sentence and then elicits learners' responses. All right, let's continue. This is the third approach in teaching English called Suggestopedia. This approach was based on the power of suggestion in learning, the notion being that positive suggestion would make the learner more receptive and in turn stimulate learning. Lozanov, its creator, holds that a relaxed but focused state is the optimum state for learning. In order to create this relaxed state in the learner and to promote positive suggestion, Suggestopedia makes use of music, a comfortable and relaxing environment, and a relationship between the teacher and the student that is taken to the parent-child relationship. Music, in particular, is central to the approach. Unlike other methods and approaches, there is no apparent theory of language in Suggestopedia and no obvious order in which items of language are presented. The original form of Suggestopedia presented by Lozanov consisted of the use of extended dialogues, often several pages in length, accompanied by vocabulary lists and observations on grammatical points. Typically, these dialogues could be read aloud to the students to the accompaniment of music. The most formal of these readings, known as the concert reading, would typically employ a memorable piece of classical music such as a Beethoven symphony. There is, however, little evidence to support the extravagant claims of success. The more obvious criticisms lie in the fact that many people find classical music irritating rather than stimulating. What do you think? Well, the use of music, both in the background and as an accompaniment to certain activities, can be motivating and relaxing. That is true. Attention to factors such as decor, lighting, and furniture is surely not a bad thing. I think it's okay. Dialogues do have their uses. Perhaps most importantly of all the ideas, creating conditions in which learners are alert and receptive can only have a positive effect on motivation. Whether these conditions are best created by the use of classical music and the reading of dialogues is open to questions, but there is no doubt that Suggestopedia has raised some interesting questions in the areas of both learning and memory. What do you think? Do you like it? And let's please listen to the last part. And this is a communicative approach, one of my favorites, my favorite ones. Well, the communicative approach makes use of real-life situations that necessitate communication. The teacher sets up a situation that students are likely to encounter in real life. Unlike the audiolingual method of language teaching, which relies on repetition and drills, the communicative approach can leave students in suspense as to the outcome of a class exercise, which will vary according to their reactions and responses. The real-life simulations change from day to day. Students' motivation to learn comes from their desire to communicate in meaningful ways about meaningful topics. Language is interaction. It is interpersonal activity and has a clear relationship with society. In this light, language study has to look at the use, which is a function of language in context, both its linguistic context, what it is uttered before and after a given piece of discourse, and its social or situational context, who is speaking, what their social roles are, why they have come together to speak, etc. In a communicative classroom for beginners, the teacher might begin by passing out cards, each with a different name printed on it. The teacher then proceeds to model an exchange of instructions in the target language. Using a combination of the target language and gestures, the teacher conveys the task at hand and gets the students to introduce themselves and ask their classmates for information. Teachers in communicative classrooms will find themselves talking less and listening more, becoming active facilitators of their students' learning. The teacher sets up the exercise, but because the student's performance is the goal, the teacher must step back and observe, sometimes acting as referee or monitor. A classroom during a communicative activity is far from quiet, however. The students do most of the speaking, and frequently the scene of a classroom during a communicative exercise is active, with students leaving their seats to complete a task. Because of the increased responsibility to participate, students may find that they gain confidence in using the target language in general. Students are more responsible managers of their own learning. What do you think? Do you like this approach? I love it. I think it's one of the most complete ones. So, let's say goodbye for tonight and let's please meet in another time. Thank you.